Why should you study the occult? That's a good question. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you've been taught that the occult is something you should stay away from. Maybe you've been taught that it's evil. Maybe it is. Now, I guess the first thing we would need to ask, the first question we need answered is, what is the occult? Man, everybody's got a different opinion, don't they? Well, let's start by saying what it's not. All this devil worship, whatever the case may be, evil spirit summoning, all this stuff, that's basically a debasing of the occult. The true study of the occult is really just understanding how nature really works, understanding how the universe really works. And they pass these understandings down in initiatory sects that they called the mystery schools. The mystery schools taught occult knowledge to its initiates. It was never something to be used for evil. It was really, as stated before, just an intricate understanding of the laws of nature and how they truly operate. This understanding was also fundamentally tied into the existence of a God or a greater being. You can't have one or the other. So, anyway. And then a debasing of these sciences, essentially, that's what they are, when used the wrong way, or when debased, or when just counterfeits are made that in no way really even have anything to do with what true occultism is. When all these things are rolled out by certain people claiming that it's occult this, occult that, it's nonsense. What the true occult or esoteric teachings are is simply the laws of the universe that were never told to you, that you're never taught in school. There's some very deep truths about the universe, about the way things work, about how people operate and are intricately connected into the system of the universe. There's so much stuff that we've never been taught that gives a better explanation than anyone I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's all to be found in the occult and esoteric sciences. Rosicrucianism, esoteric Freemasonry, the ancient philosophers, all this stuff comes from the mystery schools. It's very important to stay very close to the stream from which it all came, which was the mystery schools, the philosophical mystery schools. It's becoming increasingly difficult to, not necessarily to find the information, but to weed through information, because there's so much bullshit out there. I like to stick with people who were genuinely interested in the scholarship of the esoteric aspects of these philosophies. People like Manly P. Hall, Alvin Boyd Kuhn, Paul Foster Case, Rudolf Steiner. These are all people from the legit, genuine stream. They're initiates themselves. They're all Freemasons, first off. All Rosicrucians in some way, shape, or form. And they know what the hell they're talking about. Max Heindel is another one. Some of the Theosophists are good. I think Alvin Boyd Kuhn and Steiner were part of Theosophy, the Theosophist movement that Blavatsky started. I believe they were part of that for at least some time, and went on to do their own thing. Over time, Theosophy has had its share of, I guess, good and bad actors. Not to say there's nothing to be learned from each and every one of them. I'm sure there is. There's been some charlatans, though, and there's been some bad actors. Anyway, you can look into the history of all that. There's been rifts within Theosophy between some of the original students and then the later ones like Annie Besant and Alice Bailey. Judge their works for yourself. I know, it does seem like there's a communist element which did creep in and kind of try to take over and steer the movement toward certain ends that I don't believe Blavatsky was very fond of. It's also spoken of by her students. That's all addressed. Like I said, regardless of some of their political aims, I think that's just my speculation. I haven't really read much of her work, but it does seem like maybe there's something to be learned from some of Besant and Bailey's writings on esoteric Christianity. I would just caution people to look out for any hidden motives, political motives embedded therein, because it does seem like Theosophy got infiltrated and its goals steered in a direction that it shouldn't have been steered in. So anyway, there's that. I don't even know where this was going, but I guess, you look into occultism and it encapsulates so much. Like I said, the Renaissance also came out of this tradition. It's actually a tradition. It was a hidden tradition. It houses what's called the secret doctrine. It was a hidden philosophy. It was a school of hidden secret philosophy. There was several reasons why the philosophy was hidden over the years. It actually changed reasons due to context and whatnot. So, at some points, if you were practicing this and it went against what the orthodoxy was saying, you'd be burned at the stake. In fact, Giordano Bruno was burned at the stake for practicing this form of, you could call it mysticism, I just call it esoteric sciences, for investigating how things really work and what our relationship to God is and how you can prove that through science. He was burned at the stake. So anyway, that is what esotericism and occultism is. Now, through understanding these sciences, of course, you can take them and debase them. We would call that propaganda, black magic, deception. All these various forms of manipulation are essentially a twisting of some of the understandings which can be gained in the study of esoteric knowledge. I think the point is to have esoteric wisdom, not just esoteric knowledge. And esoteric wisdom only comes with understanding of esoteric tenets and what true esotericism is. There's some people that have no business messing with esotericism, and I would say that's probably most people. I don't think most people give it the veneration that it actually deserves and treat it with respect and are dedicated to keeping that tradition going. So I think a lot of debasing has gone on, a lot of watering down, a lot of, just the type of stuff that happens over the years. But the people I mentioned, they are ones who were true to the tradition, kept the tradition going with their research. They were performing honest scholarship. They treated the material with respect, how it should be. They weren't trying to spin it into some new age philosophy that closely resembles this stuff. None of that. They were staying true to the roots of the genuine esoteric philosophy from which all religions were truly born. It's called the Esoteric Wisdom Tradition, or the Ancient Wisdom Tradition. It goes by many names. The Secret Doctrine, the Secret Philosophy. What it is it's the esoteric truths which underlie all of religion, religion has been just watered down through the years, but it really truly does come from the same root. Then it goes up, it comes from the same root, same trunk, goes up and branches out. Becomes all these exoteric religions that don't even come close to bearing witness to the roots which they come from. So anyway, all of religion too is essentially occultism if you can actually understand the books that you're reading, which are the books of Scripture. Some of them are much more open and straightforward, like if you go to the Hindu writings and some of those, they're pretty straightforward on what it is they're talking about. And then as different religions are formed, it's different terminologies used, and then some of them obscure it more than others, and a lot of the meanings have been lost. Like within our Christian Bible are all the great teachings of the ancient esoteric wisdom tradition. It's all there. Most people just don't know what they're reading. They haven't been taught. They haven't been initiated into that philosophy. Anymore, you basically have to self-initiate yourself, because even joining any of these mystery schools that still exist, such as Freemasonry, which I myself am one of, but from most of what I see, and this is not a knock on Freemasonry, because the door is still open for those who truly want to seek. I believe that's still true. You've got things like the Scottish Rite, of which I am a member as well. I haven't participated much in the Scottish Rite just due to time constraints, and because it's so far away. It's like an hour away to even get to the nearest Scottish Rite Lodge. Anyway, the point is, the avenues are still there for those who want to seek those avenues. You can still study up on Pike, Albert Pike, who was studying comparative religion, comparative philosophy, knew a lot of these esoteric truths. It's still there. I think the door's still open to the gigantic labyrinth that you can be led into So that door's probably still there in the Scottish Rite. How in depth a lot of them get into it, I really don't know. I do know that Blue Lodge Masonry, like, you're very few and far between if you ever find anybody interested in esoteric philosophy or even knows what it means or is even interested in getting to the bottom of what the rituals truly actually mean. I don't honestly know why people join. Nobody really joins for what Masonry is actually for. It's kind of sad. It's not just a club. It's not like a Rotary Club or like a dinner club, like an Eagles Club or whatever. Not even like the Knights of Columbus, like was mentioned within the last week. I mean, Knights of Columbus, to my understanding, is like a Catholic reiteration, basically a Catholic forgery of Freemasonry. But anyway, I don't know. People just don't respect it like they used to. That needs to come back. But that's all occultism is. Freemasonry is the study of occultism. You could say esotericism. That sounds a little softer and a little nicer. People just have this weird idea that occultism means like sacrificing babies and stuff like that, which that did happen through a debasement of occultism. So, for instance, let's just say you had a ritual that was about the sun, the S-U-N, the sun, the shining orb in the sky, that center of God energy that shines through, right? Because light is God energy, right? So you've got that shines through, and over time you realize that it is the sun, it is the light that provides you with everything you need. It is your risen Savior. It gives its life so that you may live. It turns water to wine. It provides you everything you need. So you create this beautiful ritual where you understand that if not for that light, then the grains which produce the breads will not grow. And without that light, then the vine will not grow. The rains will not be swept up into the clouds, evaporated, and then rain down upon the vine so that you may make wine for your Eucharist, where you commemorate the Son by saying, I eat your body and drink your blood, which we say the bread is the body and the wine is the blood, the wine from the vine that grew the grapes. The bread is the body, the bread of the grains, which were grown by the light of the sun. All of this was produced by the light of the sun. Therefore, it is the light of the sun. It is the sun. It is the energy of the sun transformed. It is an emanation of the sun. It is the sun. It is the body and the blood of the sun. And we commemorate that great solar giver of life by eating the body and the blood of Christ. Christ is the fluid, the oil. Christ means oil. The sunlight is actually a fluid. It's actually an oil. Anyway, that's getting kind of too deep. But now, going back to occultism, because like I said, what I just described to you, the Eucharist, that is true occultism. Now, but we can see how if the savage got a hold of these teachings, someone who does not understand what this deep philosophy means, and if he reads it literally, then he gets quite a different view of what it means. Then you don't take your firstborn son, like S-U-N, God's Son, S-U-N, which provides its body and its blood for us to eat and drink, the bread and the wine, of course. When you read this literally and not philosophically, what it's telling you is to give up your firstborn son and to eat its body and drink its blood, which we see the later debased mysteries doing. You know, people sacrificing their firstborn, people getting dragged up onto the altar and having their heart ripped out and the blood in the body eaten. I mean, see, this is why it's so important to keep these rituals sacred. But that's just a debasing. All that, you know, satanic stuff like that, do all these blood rituals and whatnot. No, that's not what true occultism is. True occultism is how I just described the Eucharist to you. A deep, high scientific understanding of how things work. And then the rituals, which were created to commemorate that high science. The high science is embedded everywhere if you care to look. It's embedded in all the nursery rhymes and all the great classical paintings, in all the scriptures of the world, the ancient Greek philosophy, Judaism, which came out of the ancient Greek and Roman philosophies and whatnot. Egyptian, of course, where they all learned what they all learned, because that's truly where it all comes from. So, and that's another topic for another time, but yeah, it all comes from Egypt. You know, Egypt and before. Even as high as Egypt still was when it was teaching people like Plato, it was even in a debased form from what it was originally, because they even think the pyramids were built much, much earlier than what we think. And the Sphinx clearly appears to be built much, much earlier than what most modern historians think. And it makes sense, because there is an entire mystery regarding the philosophy of the zodiac, how it lines up with the Sphinx, and what that all means, because the philosophy emanates from the sky, the as above so below principle, and it's all commemorated in like almost everything that you could even imagine around you. Well, it truly actually is commemorated in everything around you, because everything around you is just an emanation of light, an emanation of the sun, light. It permeates everything. It is what things are. It's just energy transformed into different forms, but ultimately it is the same substance. Quite amazing when you truly think about it. And that's what all the ancient philosophies dealt with, the true understandings of all this. So then you got your esoteric systems like Kabbalah, alchemy, you know, Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, basically just alchemy and Kabbalah. Societies to study alchemy and Kabbalah. That's what the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons are. It's not a cult. It's just the study of high science, how things truly work, how the sun truly is the generator of all things within our world. And then suns within other worlds. You know, you look out in the sky, all these suns, they probably got similar situations going on. They've got their own earths, whatnot. Everything's a fractal of this God energy. Everything is essentially a solar system. Like I mentioned before, the human body is a solar system in and of itself. It's a representation. It's a emanation of the solar system. We are emanations of the sun. So, enough for now, but we shall return to the topic.